All right, everyone. Review Realm here. And for the rest of 2020, it looks like we're going to be covering albums that have come out throughout the year. There's not much time left in the year, so we're going back and getting the ones that we missed for the rest of the year.
There's a handful, so John's going to pick a couple, I'm going to pick a couple. This is stuff that we probably either both have listened to or stuff that neither of us have listened to, so it'll be good to switch up and kind of finalize our top 10s for 2022.
This is one of the albums that we visited earlier this year. It's definitely one that the two of us were talking about. Deftones' 9th album, Ohms. The reason you and I have talked about this album so much leading up to us is because, we really like this band. It's been 4 years since the last album, Gore. The conversation Sam and I have had about that album is we don't really like that album.
No bueno.
No. And not a good release from them. Deftones a great band. The last album, not good. We both agreed on that. So I was saying to you, I said, Sam, they got to redeem themselves with this next album. I'm willing to let them get a pass on it.
We've had that discussion before where their albums are either, they go, good album, bad album, good album, bad album.
Ohms finally releases, and
I won't be so harsh because I think personally, I actually didn't get into Deftones until a little later in my life. You remember when Koyokan came out? That album is a banger. It's probably, for me, in the top 3 Deftones albums ever.
Yep.
Because the album start to finish is awesome. Every song off that track is awesome. Gore had like 2 songs, if that.
Yep.
If that, for me. This one I didn't think was as bad. I like the feel of the album. But the thing is, the feel of the album, it still was just like there wasn't a lot on it that was offered. I mean, I heard the couple of singles. I know we were both kind of different with them. I liked both of the singles that came out. They weren't like, oh, dude, I gotta have this on my playlist all the time. I'm like, I can dig them, and I still dig them. This album and Gore, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like these albums had a lot of fluff on them. This one I think sounds better than Gore, but I don't think it gave us any other songs or even a full album to really appreciate personally.
I was so disappointed with the last album, and our first taste of the album was the title track, and I listened to that and I said, oh my god, they're not going to do it. I said they're going to make another stinker. Overall, I don't like the album. I tried, I didn't want to be harsh on it. Leading up to our review here, I've been listening to it more and more. The more times I listened to the album, the more I wanted to turn it off. I'll try to say nice things about the album. The album starts out okay. Genesis is a good opening track. And you should have had that as the first single. I'm like, why do you have this boring title track as your first single? It starts off good. Genesis, Ceremony, Urantia is okay.
That's actually one of the songs that has grown on me recently.
They actually put Stephen Carpenter into the album this time. I felt like Gore, he was not there. And I still feel like on this album he's kind of not there. But they do have some moments where they try to have you think he isn't here, like Urantia and Radiant City. But really for me, once it gets to Error, and I was telling you about Error, and I was like, why does this sound like Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin?
It's funny, I heard it the first couple, when the album first came out, I listened to it, and I picked up on it, but I'm like, maybe it's just me. And then you texted me, a couple weeks ago, and you're like, dude, why does this sound like this? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's after Error where it's just, the album just goes downhill from there. It's just nothing to offer. I think it's a lot of fluff, you said. And I feel like now, Deftones now is a band that's just they're just phoning it in now. I feel like they don't really get along with one another, really. It's been news in the past where it's been a lot of musical differences, before releasing albums. I think it was definitely with Gore, and I think maybe with this album too. This album is just disappointingly bad. Not a good Deftones album for me. I want that unreleased album.
That was the one before the bass player died, right?
Yeah.
The thing with this album is Gore was an album where I couldn't even go. I think I went back and tried to re-listen to it after this album came out, because you're like, I think there was some tracks on Gore. There are more tracks on Gore worth listening to over Ohms. I went back, and for me, Gore was just there was nothing besides those couple of songs I liked. This one I went back and I'm like, if this album is on in the background and I'm not paying attention, it's not bad. It's kind of like, oh yeah, cleaning, cooking, whatnot. I don't think it's horrible. There weren't enough songs that stuck out to me to make me go, oh, there's like these 7-8 songs that are just bangers, or the album flow. It's not White Pony, Around the Fur.
Not Diamond Eyes. It's not Koi no Yoken. It just feels like a phoned-in album.
After you had pointed out the Immigrant Song thing about Error, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is... Not that I'm ever one to accuse a band of you stole this from somebody else. I think
bands do it inadvertently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to ever do that. It's just something I'm not going to be able to hear without going, oh, this is the Immigrant Song. Where they plan on going from here? I don't know. I mean, it's been 4 years between these albums. I think it was 4 years between this and the album before that.
I told you, I said, if this album was similar to Gore, I'd be like, I'm done. And you know what? I am done.
Yeah, wait. I'm done. When bands start slumping like this, we're going to say that, but when in 4 years, when the next Deftones album comes out, whether it be a good album or a bad album, you and I are still going to listen to it at least once or twice. But I see where you're coming from.
And it's not like I didn't try with this album. I did. I tried. At least with Gore, I didn't really try. I was like, I don't want to hear this. I mean, this album, I tried. Nothing really there. Besides those first few songs, it starts off as a somewhat promising album, and then just goes downhill from there. I don't see what others are seeing in this. Definitely not.
This is what I'll say, because I've always seen, me. I've always looked at music differently from other people. I always listen to different music. I've always had a different mindset, especially being into progressive music. I'll always ask people, okay, I didn't like it personally, but I'm always curious why other people liked it. What about this stuff attracts you? What other people, not to judge them, but just kind of get into their mindsets, because guess what, we all have different tastes.
If you're a band and you put out an album, and I get that feeling like you don't really want to make this music, that's what Ohms sounds like to me. It sounds like they didn't want to do it, but they were like, you know what, we've been a band so long, it's been 4 years, it's about time to put out an album. That's what it feels like to me. That's why I tried so hard, is because other people felt so differently about it.
Well, I'm curious, when people comment and listen to this video, I would like to see what their feedback is. Not so much, you can judge us, tell us we're assholes or whatnot for not liking the album, but yeah. I'm actually curious why people like why do you like this album? I'm not going to judge, I'm curious for your feedback. I want to understand why people why we enjoy things differently.
Yeah, that's definitely, I want to advocate something in the comments section for this video. What did you like about Ohms? What did you not like about Ohms? Maybe you feel the same as we do. I'm definitely curious as to what makes you like this album, or maybe what makes it sticks out as far as a Deftones album. Definitely let us know in the comments below. Check out all our social media pages. We still have a bunch of reviews left for 2020 before we do each of our top 10s. So, yeah, we'll see you next time.